there's so much institutional knowledge in every organization that we work with, but so often it's in people's minds and in the interactions that they instinctively, go through every day. So
Today we're talking to Nate O'Keefe and to get his take on the state of sales and marketing in the senior living industry, and specifically what headwinds and tailwinds we're facing as we're entering into 2018. So hello and welcome to Fresh Insights from Fresh Faces. In addition to Nate, I'm Jeff, and we're also joined by Phil Smith, Link Media 360's Solutions Consultant. So Nate, before we jump in, you want to share a little bit about yourself and your perspective on the senior living industry and maybe something special, some unique impact you've made or experience you've had during your time in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Really admire what you all are doing, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to share some of what we've observed over the last 4 years that we've been really focused on better understanding and then working towards some of the common goals that our partners in the senior care industry experience. As far as my background, I've been building digital health products for more than 15 years. My co-founder and I started Roobrik after we both had these kind of separate, significant care experiences. Judy, my co-founder in particular, has been a caregiver for her mother and her in-laws for more than, 18 years. Oh. Our shared experience is just how difficult it is to become informed online when you're in some sort of a health or care crisis. And I think we're all kind of used to this familiar experience now where something happens. You notice a change with yourself or somebody else at home. You get a diagnosis, there's something happens, and the first thing most of us do now is we go to Google, and we all start going through this it's the same process. You guess at keywords, you try and figure out what's the right thing you're supposed to be searching for, and then you sift through these pages of search results, looking for those tidbits of information that feel like they might be relevant to what feels like a very unique situation. And as a digital product person, when I was in those moments myself, I found that to be an incredibly frustrating, but ultimately we thought solvable experience. And so the kernel of the Roobrik concept was, well, hey, what if there was a platform that actually asked you a few questions about your situation? Couldn't it then bring back a much more curated set of tools and information and resources structured around an informed decision-making process? So essentially, what if health information was both personalized, so you could see yourself in it, but also actionable? So it wasn't just, here's your situation, good luck, but here's how other people that have dealt with this in the past have kind of gotten through it, and here's what you can expect as next steps. And that model felt so relevant for senior care in general, where folks are noticing changes they don't know how to contextualize, and the whole range of options available to them, from what they can do at home to professional help to the options they might have in the senior living world, are completely foreign and opaque to them. And so when we saw just a tremendous need and opportunity to collaborate with everyone else that's been working in this space for years to try and bring our special angle to that. And we've been fortunate that we've gotten some good traction there, and are working with great groups to help solve those problems for those consumers that are those older adults and caregivers that are still back there on day one noticing a missed stop sign or a repeated story, and having some of that be validated with both the personal needs of the folks in the industry we work with, but also the business needs has been really exciting for us.
There's definitely times where you get too deep into that rabbit hole and you just, it's not personalized to you.
It's rare that we bring up that situation in a room full of people and every hand doesn't shoot up and say, gosh, I've been there. I was there last night at 2 a.m. Yep. And sometimes it's sometimes it's higher stakes than other times, but always it's that experience of I'm worried. I've got an emotional anxiety that's kind of building, and I really wish I had some context, yet I'm not ready to pick up the phone or see the doctor, or right. I don't know if it's the right time to sound the alarms, and finding ways to provide comfort and direction in those situations is something we've really been focusing on.
I'd love to hear, your perspective on some of the tailwinds that we're facing as sales and marketing leaders in this industry that is, relatively underinformed.
Yeah. And our best lens is looking at the older adults and families that we interact with, and for what we're designed to do, these are folks that are kind of early enough in the process that, again, they're not sure what to do next, but they're far enough along that they're already spending time on our partners' websites, and they're often doing that anonymously. It's like getting your feet wet in a safe way and saying, well, I might never have seen myself looking at a senior living option, but I can do that anonymously online, and I can try and get a sense of, is this something that even feels like me or feels like something I think about? And that's a unique time to catch people, because often they are more ready than they think they are. There are things that they could benefit from at least understanding those environments and those options that they may not recognize at that point. So we're fortunate to kind of hear their voices at that time. And we actually gathered some data over the Thanksgiving holidays. Over that period, this is about a 10-day period, 63% of them told us and our partners that they do think senior living might be the right option for them. 77% said they're ready or somewhat ready for change. So only 23% of that audience was like, we're not even ready to contemplate that. Almost half noted that they're concerned about loneliness and isolation. So there is that sense that although we may have always felt like home was going to be the choice for us, we're now noticing that in reality, the things that aren't quite as we pictured them. And going along with that, almost 77% said being social or the ability to be social was important to them. So I think in terms of headwinds and tailwinds, I think there's a greater acceptance that getting professional help, either home care or senior living, can be a good thing. The stigma and those misconceptions or misperceptions about what those things are like seem to be waning.
Good.
At the same time, I'd say for so many people, it's still such a big black box. They just don't know what to expect, and the image that they have in their mind may not reflect the actual experience they'd have. And a lot of things in life are like that, but this is a big one. And so what we see working is helping people understand what it's like, warts and all. And that's the approach we think will work best. Sure, be positive, talk about the benefits, the amenities, the lifestyle, but be frank about things that may be less predictable or more difficult. The best salespeople are naturally and authentically good at that balance, and institutionalizing that message we think can only be a good thing in the long term. People, we find, can sniff out pretty quickly when they're being marketed to, and the more you can paint a clear picture of, these are the things that a lot of our residents feel is really great, the things that surprise them. And here's some of the areas where they've struggled, and we've been really working to reduce those struggles. We know this is a big transition. And again, frontline salespeople are terrific at that, but it can be hard to reflect that authenticity and that experience further upstream when people are still kind of in an anonymous mode.
And Nate, it sounded like, again, there's a ton of great insights in there. And it sounds like some of the really positive things for a lot of our sales and marketing leaders is that people are going online and they are searching and they are visiting our website. They're self-educating. And through this kind of shift in how seniors are searching, their loved ones, their caregivers, the adult child influencers, that self-education is what's helping kind of correct some of the misconceptions or some of the, kind of lagging perceptions on senior care and, really what really what our communities are able to offer, not only in care level, but also in peace of mind. And like you said, accompanying and engagement and, quality of lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think giving people a better picture of the engagement they're actually generating, the types of folks they're engaging and what they're caring about. There's a market research component that I think is also kind of underutilized in the industry, and not without good reason. I think when you're trying to run an operation that's focused on care, sometimes the data story becomes secondary or tertiary, and yet it can be so impactful for everything you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure that, Nate, you mentioned market research. In market research, we see cooperation rates are often highest with those aged 55 plus. So I think the simple fact of asking and making a concerted effort to ask and collect data in a disciplined and rigorous way will probably yield amazing results, because you'll most likely have 80 to 90% cooperation rates. Is that what you've seen?
We see, yeah, I think, well, everybody has a preference for how they want to engage. And for some people, picking up the phone or going in for a tour is exactly the right thing for both their disposition and personality, but also where they might be in the decision process. But other people prefer, it's very kind of person and situation dependent. If, for instance, when I'm trying to solve a customer service problem online, I'm now comfortable using an online chat. I've even done some, tweeting to a brand to try and get some sort of response. But that's for specific types of interactions where it's a kind of a transactional moment. If it's something where I still want to be anonymous and private, I want to engage differently. Maybe I want to consume content passively. Maybe I want to watch a video. We think storytelling could be such an important mechanism, as a lot of our partners have already discovered and do well. But I think there is a multimodality that's important from the engagement strategy. And I think you mentioned a word there, Jeff, that we think is really critical too, and that's gathering data in a structured way. And there's so much institutional knowledge in every organization that we work with, but so often it's in people's minds and in the interactions that they instinctively, go through every day. So if you have a system that allows you to capture these experiences in a structured way, that's great. I think if not, even when you have a weekly or periodic sales meeting, having some kind of repeated structured discussions around, asking the same question each time and starting to track those responses. Same with the marketing organization, and then beginning to correlate that to the data your paid search program may be generating or your web analytics might be generating. And again, it doesn't have to be super effortful, and there are partners and vendors that can help with that. But there's just a massive amount of really valuable data that the first step is thinking about it as important and finding a way to structure it.
Right. Perfect.
That's great. That's great. And one of the things I'd be interested in is what is in your mind one of the biggest challenges or some of the biggest challenges that we'll face heading into 2018, understanding all of the opportunities that we have to better connect, better engage, better collect data, and better, just really have a better operations overall. What are some of our biggest challenges?
Yeah, and we think of that. I kind of narrow the focus there to sales and marketing as the side of the organization that we would feel most qualified to have an opinion on. But also because that's, we I think have developed a better sense of kind of some of their pain points. And we do see some common themes. I'd say the first or the main one really is this kind of a decision paralysis. Lots of people are pitching lots of products and solutions, and like a senior living decision for a consumer, it can be hard to figure out what's the right solution for you and your organization. When's the right time to use it? So we kind of suggest a simple framework for that. And the first is, do I understand what I'm buying, and does it make sense for me? The comparison I like to make here is, I used to be, the previous company that I was involved with was an early mobile medical app company. And you all probably recall 8 years ago, everybody thought, I got to have an app. I need to get an app. I need to have a mobile app. This is the hot new thing. And that's what I'm hearing constantly from both external sources. And I love my iPhone and I use my apps on it. So how can I ignore this as a channel where I need to be? And of course, hundreds of businesses came to meet that supposed need and tried to sell them a variety of apps, a variety of app options, from super expensive custom development down to platforms where you could put in your contact information. All of a sudden, you had a native app. The reality was very few of those folks needed an app. It was shiny and new, but it didn't reflect their audience, their habits, or the things they really needed to accomplish. So getting to that question of, does this make sense for us? And being self-critical about that, and critical of what you're hearing extrinsically, I think is important. It's not easy. I mean, today it's the talk is of robots and sensors and AI and machine learning, and it's hard not to wake up and feel like, should we be doing more with Bitcoin? It's like, and for most of the people we're working with, I don't think that's the right answer, but I don't blame people for having those questions and trying to find a way to investigate them as quickly as possible and rule them out if they are not the right fit, and rule them in if it's something to experiment with. So I think it doesn't make sense. The next two themes I'd say we see are practical. Can we integrate it today, and will it work in our environment? Will our teams use it, and can they use it? It may be a great solution, but a lot of folks we work with deal with certain realities that either they're trying to improve, or are just realities of the way their culture, the operation works, that makes certain solutions not a good fit. You don't want to end up with a solution that might be great in certain circumstances, but nobody on your team uses it, or nobody uses it the right way. And so I'd say there's kind of a combination there. Can we use it the right way? If not, do we need to make some infrastructural changes to make this happen because it is the right thing?
Right.
Two more would be, and this is an important one. Does it reflect our values as an organization? Will it help us be our best selves? Will it build trust? Does it feel like us? I think most people are intrinsically good at feeling this out, but it can be a good gut check if you're on the fence. And there will be more and more opportunities to use technology in ways that, I think most people are now comfortable with the description of, does this feel creepy to me? Are we doing something that, if someone goes to the site and the next day they get an ad or something in the mail, and I think there's a line between when that's comfortable and expected, and when that feels intrusive. And if you're close to that line, I think it's really important to ask that question. Does this kind of match with our values? And if somebody called us out on that, would we feel good about that? And then finally is another practical one. Can I measure its impact? Can I measure the ROI? Will I get the data I need to understand what bars it's moving and how? And can I compare that with our other tactics and programs? Can I find the context for this thing, or is it so isolated that I really can't tell if it's working? So there's a lot there, but I think those are the themes we continue to see recurring. And folks like what you all are doing is both an advisory capacity and other great folks in the industry, I think, can be helpers there, and being transparent with what we know and what we don't know, and focusing on fit rather than the sale. Is this the right fit for you? Because if it's not, it's not going to work out for us anyway.
Well, I think, one of the questions that that spins out of that would be, how do you see data and data understanding and, all of these different options we have? We have CRMs, we have marketing automation platforms, we have our website. We have all of these places that have such great data. Even a tool like Roobrik has, such great data that it can feed us. But, do you see that as a challenge or an opportunity for our communities to kind of make sense of this and really kind of drive their strategy forward?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anybody, maybe some of the bigger players, to have a data scientist on staff to really sift through that. So I think one of the biggest challenges, and this is a live issue in traditional healthcare as well, is disparate data sources, first kind of pulling data streams together, but then being able to analyze those in a way that actually makes operational sense. Because we can all look at a slide that shows something interesting, and that might produce a revelatory moment of, gosh, we're not reaching the audience we thought we were, or they're not hearing our message in the way that we thought they were. But it's so easy to go back to the status quo after seeing that. And so I don't think there's a fast, easy answer or a fast process. I think it's a change that will happen over time, and there will be products and services that will be there to support that. And I think there will be people, coming in from other industries or coming out of different educational backgrounds that will say, hey, I can apply this thing I learned here to a specific problem, or I can help you tie together your systems to gather the data that we think is going to be really impactful this month and moving forward.
Great. And, and kind of talking about that engagement piece with our audience and really connecting with those that we're trying to reach, those that are a good fit, that do fit our organization, and we fit them as well. Do you feel, though, that seniors, their loved ones, their families really understand these options that they have in the space, from CCRCs to or life plan communities to traditional IL versus something like skilled nursing or assisted living? Are we well enough informed as consumers at large to make these decisions?
As I sort of touched on before, I think more are now than in the past. And you would assume or hope that would always be the trend, but I think there's absolutely work to be done. I think once somebody is ready to have a phone call or take a tour, they're already in good hands. Our partner sales teams are the absolute experts at again developing these authentic connections, empathetic relationships, and then helping people understand their options. From a digital perspective, I think that, as we mentioned before, storytelling is great. I think a day in the life of a typical resident with kind of just the right balance of kind of shine and grittiness to feel authentic can be a big help. I think it's important to get out of this mindset of this is how we work and where you'll fit in, and into the mindset of what's it feel like when you're making a big change like this, and how can we adjust our language, our approach, and our services to fit into your world. We were secret shopping a national provider a few years back, and we used their online chat function. And there's someone on our team, her mom was dealing with some cognitive decline issues, and so this was an authentic communications. And the third question we were asked in this online chat experience, after we had said, we're worried about my mom's memory and thinking, and are just trying to understand our options. The next question was, well, is your mom wandering or combative? And that's such a scary question to hear when you're at the beginning stages of this process. And of course, we know, for having spent time in the industry, that those are really meaningful. And if you know the answer to those questions, you can help somebody find a better solution for them faster. But the language that we as an industry use is seldom the language that this audience uses, and that our older adults and their families use. And it doesn't sound like it should be that big of a deal to ask that question, but it can make something that was already a little scary even more scary. And we later met with the provider that offered that, and they were aware that there were something. Everybody we work with is aware that there are things that they can be doing better. We're not trying to suggest any of it is easy to get people on the same page and to develop new languages around this. But I think that's, if we're always trending in that direction, that's a good thing. Obviously interactive programs like Roobrik are designed very specifically to help with this challenge. So our advice would be make tools like these available openly and freely so people can get personalized perspective on their needs and options. Be that helpful research. We often reference A Miracle on 34th Street, which is very timely at this time of year, where we may not have what you need today at Macy's, but Gimbel's down the street has it, and we're here to help you today make the decision that's right for you. And we're optimistic that will come back to us either with you directly or with you sharing the good experience you've had with folks in your circle. And we really see our partners living that. I can't think of anyone we've talked to that said we want people in here at all costs. It's we want to help people make the right decision. And if it's not us today or it's not us ever, we're working with an individual, we're working with a human to try and figure this out for them.
Exactly. And I think the language piece, it was such a great point. I hadn't really ever considered it in that form, but I think like you said, it's already kind of scary because of the unknown. And then to have that be the ringing idea that that's the next step, that's what I should expect, is becomes, pretty much terrifying, when talking about a loved one.
I think even the drop down, it says, what level of care do you want? Assisted, independent, or memory care? I think at a certain level, someone is self-educated enough where they can answer that with confidence. But there's a lot of research that goes into understanding what those are. And it's not a simple choice for many folks. And I think that requires you to self-assess your own needs, understand what that kind of product or service is like, understand how this particular provider implements that, and somehow get a crystal ball into the future of what that means for, that being your 24-hour-a-day experience. And even some of those little things, although it certainly makes it easier to triage an inbound lead in a CRM, those sorts of things can be barriers to people saying, I don't know if I'm ready to fill this out yet because I don't know what I'm signing up for. And
great point.
For people that are informed and ready to move forward, that's a great thing. So it's about that balance of helping the people that are further along, but also engaging those folks that are still, there's a lot of opacity to this decision process.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Again, how can we, and I think that really lends to, how do we make it easier for individuals to engage, whether it's with our website or with a decision-making tool? How do we just make that conversation easier? Because like you said, all of our communities, whether, it's for, now we're going to, be able to work with you and take care of you and your loved one, or maybe never, we're still open to helping. So how do we just get people to open up and allow our communities to help?
Yeah. All of our partners have as a foundational mission and value to give people the best care and best support as they navigate this life phase. Our philosophy is that should be consistent from the very first experience you have with that person all the way to the very last experience you have with that person. And if you ask anybody that works with any of these organizations, that's why they're there. They're there for that reason. Right. And I think to look at your sales and marketing program as anything other than that, to kind of put it in its own box and say, oh, we got to have a website that does this. It's like we got to have an app. I think it's thinking about that mission all the way up through that very first interaction. The first, sentence you have in a paid search ad, the mailing that goes out. And if there's a way you can fulfill that mission at each one of those points, if you can start that dialogue sooner, online in a way that they want to have it. So offering live chat is a great way to think about when someone clicks on your live chat link, they're telling you they're ready to start a conversation with you. So be thinking about that, not as necessarily closing the lead or getting the tour, but as I'm here to my mission is to provide care and support for this person. Let me do my best to get back into that headspace every time I answer that call or I jump on live chat. And what we try and do is, we know there are people that are even a step before that, or they're more reluctant, where they don't even want to have a direct interaction. And so giving them a conversational, interactive engagement tool that evokes that feeling, evokes that information, and builds that trust, catches a significant, an increasing portion of folks that fully expect to be able to research something privately online before they move forward. Yeah. So, but a lot of it, I think, is just remembering why you're here and why you're doing it, and not making that different from the care that you might provide when you've got someone right in front of you.
Right. That's great. Well, Nate, you've really provided some thoughtful and important perspectives today, so we really appreciate it. And thanks for your time today. Would you like to share with the audience where they can find you, maybe some additional information where they can find you on social?
Yeah, so we are, the company is Roobrik, ROOBRIK, kind of a funky spelling. So Roobrik.com is our website. We're okay on social. You can find us on Twitter with that same handle, and on Facebook. But we love to show this stuff off. We love to engage with partners that may be thinking about this sort of thing. We do a really quick demo. We're super easy to try out, low cost, see if it works. So again, for us, it's about that fit too. If, we can get something into the channel in just a couple of hours and know in a couple of weeks if it's producing the sorts of results or creating the sort of experience that you want. And so our best recommendation is, hey, try this out, low stakes. If it's moving the bar, let's do more of it. If it's not, let's move on. And so we always enjoy those conversations and meeting new folks.
That's great. Wonderful. Good deal. All right, well, thank you, Nate. Thank you, Phil. And we're going to put a wrap on today's episode. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. And you can look for more information on this episode on linkmedia360.com/FIFF. So thanks so much, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.